RTK. Today we're going to talk about ad fraud. And what does ad fraud mean to the company, our company, and what it means in the industry. And a lot of things, there's a lot of different types of fraud activity. As you start to get more knowledgeable in the industry, you're going to be like, oh my God, Jake, there's so much fraud. You hear this buzzword, fraud. Let's take a step back and kind of start to think about what does fraud mean, especially in the internet advertising world. Right? When we first started the company, there was something called toolbar ad inventory. And toolbar inventory was labeled fraud. Right? That's one quote-unquote type of fraud. Some people thought it was fraud. There was actually multi-million-dollar, in fact there's a couple billion-dollar businesses that work on this toolbar business. We're going to talk about toolbar in a little bit, but there's different types of fraud. There's bot fraud. Now, what is bot fraud? We've talked about how impressions generate cash, right? If you have 10 million impressions versus 100 million impressions, you make more money with 100 million. But remember, if we go back to the cycle of like what is online advertising, you want to get advertisers in front of audiences, in front of people. What bot fraud does is it enables websites to generate lots of different advertising impressions without actually showing it to any people. So they have like computers that are simulating that it shows impressions, but people actually don't see their advertisements. So this is kind of a big deal, right? Like, you have Whole Foods, they want to buy advertising spots. Hey, Whole Foods, we're Whole Foods in Los Angeles, and we want people to come to our stores. But somebody in the Ukraine is generating impressions that look like they're coming from Los Angeles, but no one's actually seeing the ads. That's called bot fraud. Right? Your site.
So websites use that to just get paid without actually.
Yes. If you look at all of these types of fraud, you can actually start to Google them. You can start seeing big articles. This is not like little like $50, $100, $2,000. Yeah. This is like multi-million dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. Here at the bot fraud. The Wall Street Journal actually covered it a couple years ago, maybe 6 months ago. Huge, but they find it because clients are paying lots of money to be on these websites, and they're not necessarily on these websites. Right? It's fraud.
Yeah.
There's something called site spoofing. Site spoofing is interesting, right? Come to you and say, hey, Rafael, here's my $50,000 budget. I want to be on CNN, Yahoo, Bloomberg, and CNBC. And you're like, all right. And let's say you, I say, I want it for 50 cents. Like, all right, Jake, no problem. But you know that, Bloomberg, for example, and CNBC, they charge $2 or even $3 CPM, or maybe even higher. What are you gonna do then? You're gonna lose money. So you do something called site spoofing. Yeah, no problem. What people used to do is they take a tag, and they'd say in the tag, they'd rewrite the tag name. So it would refer and say, oh yeah, you're on Bloomberg, you're on CNBC. The technology would read it and say, oh, this is Bloomberg and CNBC. But you take that and you spend that 50 cents, and you go buy it on a website that was only 25 cents, joeschmo.com. Right? The technology, here's the tech. Here's the advertiser. All right, let me clear this up. Make it really simple. Right? So So you have your advertiser here, right? You want to pay 50 cents. You have your tech over here. You as the technology provider, the middleman, the network, whatever, say, yeah, I'm gonna deliver.
Then the tech, you mean Bloomberg?
No. Middleman.
Okay.
This guy comes from a network.
Right.
They say, well, I want to be on Bloomberg.
Okay. The tech is the network.
Yeah. Bloomberg, Yahoo, CNBC, right? It's 50 cents, they gotta fulfill it. So the tech/network says, no problem. I'm gonna take your money. They put this, they don't actually buy on those sites. They buy on other sites. Joe Schmo. .com. They buy it at 25 cents. JoeSchmo.com goes through the tech. The tech redoes, or the network redoes the tag, says it comes from these sites, passes this back to the advertising network. Boom. Yeah, you were on these guys. You really weren't seeing the right traffic.
Just wait, hold on. Hey.
Let me give you a better example.
Okay.
You're an advertiser. You're Apple. Come to me and say, Jake, I heard you represent the people at Hollywood and Highland. Big billboard. I say, yeah, I do. It's like, all right, here's $100. I know it's $100 or $1,000 to get on that Hollywood and Highland. All right, great. You're gonna be on Hollywood and Highland, no problem. The thing with Hollywood and Highland is it has one of those rotating banners. Where, you ever see those digital banners? Like it rotates.
Yeah.
No problem, you'll be on Hollywood and Highland. Right? And I take the digital asset, and I go put it on Olympic and Bundy right here. That's definitely not Hollywood and Highland. However, I made it seem I site spoofed it. I said, no, I came from Hollywood and Highland. How do you know? Well, the technology said. How do you do the technology? I typed in my technology feed. Come from this Hollywood and Highland instead of from Olympic and Bundy. Yeah, is very devious. Right? Now, in the physical world, it's kind of difficult to site spoof. Right? If I go see it, it's like, all right, where's my banner? I said Hollywood Highland, I don't see the banner. I'm sitting here 24 hours and looking at it, I don't see how. You're talking about the internet, you're talking about millions or billions of ad impressions. You're talking about an ecosystem that runs very quickly. This is actually rather easy to do, or it used to be. So when we think about fraud, right, obviously it's always the perspective of the person. We're going to go more into this toolbar thing a little bit, because it's worth interesting explanation. There's also something called like redirect fraud, or other types of like faking impressions or faking conversions or post back. There's all these kinds of schemes, right? Because remember, Google is paying. People pay for large advertising impressions. And you think about Google as a corporation, right? It's a big corporation, multi-billion dollars. They pay out, right? So if you work with Google, right? If you're a partner of Google, Google actually pays you advertising dollars. Right? So what happens is advertisers come to Google. You go to Google. If you own a website, you actually are a partner of Google. So what happens is advertiser pays $1,000. Google takes, 30%. And they actually pay out $700. A whole system where the website actually makes Google's their client. So, but if this is fraudulent, and Google's transacting all of these different types of transactions at hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And so you get, $70,000 worth of like fraudulent traffic. It's not that much traffic. However, if you're an advertiser, what the fuck? Like no way. Like wait a second. I just paid Google $100,000, and I'm on some fake website, but nobody is actually coming to it. People are fake clicking. I don't have any sales. The whole reason this website exists is just to generate revenue, advertising revenue. They don't produce anything. They don't give you any content. They just sit there. Right? We've drawn this a bunch of times now. Right? You have your website. Typical website. You have your ads, which I've said before. You have your content. Right? That's a typical website. It's actually producing something in the world. It's giving something to the world. It may not be the nicest thing in the world. It might be a gossip site. It might be, whatever. But there's content that's being produced, and then ads are being shown. In the fraudulent world, so as many ads as they can. Ad.
No content.
No content, no nothing, just ads. And then they have a bot paying this as many times as possible. And there's advertisers paying for this. It's like, well, who's going here? I don't know one, it's just whatever.
But they're paying for thinking their own website. But do they know the name of the website?
Maybe, maybe not. So the bot goes to the tech. They go to Google and say, hey, this is the website. You say, what website is this? Like, seansblog.com, for example. But this $100,000 gets distributed across thousands of different websites. You got one website here, 2 websites, 3 websites, 4 websites. You got 1,000 websites. How do you find that? People on a haystack. All right. Well, then you start to look at like the performance stuff like that. But the point of the matter is like all of this is run by technology. It's not. You can't go to Hollywood and Highland and just kind of see. Oh my God, yeah, this is where my ad is. And there's a much bigger place than that. Right? There's ways to gather that kind of information. So when we think about this kind of stuff, we look at this fraud thing is a big deal. Right? It's one thing to be browsing on a website and you never click on ads. That's one thing. Yeah, that sucks. If you're an advertiser, you put all this money into your advertisements and no one clicks on your ads, like, what the hell? It's another thing when like no one actually even sees your ads. They don't even have the opportunity to see your ads. Like a lot of advertisers, they get very frustrated with TiVo or DVR. Like, that sucks. Like somebody's like fast forwarding through your ads. The truth of the matter is that they make better ads. People make what? Maybe people would watch them. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? What's unfair, what's cheating, is somebody comes in and they don't even see that. You know, there's a bot thing going on. Or they say, hey, I'm on Hollywood Highland, but they're really on Olympic and Bundy.
And Google has no way to control that?
Oh, wait. Yeah. So these are some of the things that do have ad fraud.
Right. Does that still happen, or is it?
Well, it still happens.
Okay.
Now the question is, all right, now what happens? Like, well, Google's got to figure this out. Like, because first of all, it hurts these guys. Second of all, it's hurting Google. I mean, if I'm spending $100,000 and I got no return on my spend, I'm not spending $100,000 on Google anymore. Like, too bad. And Google, I don't want to run this kind of shady crap. We run this established network. Big websites aren't going to want to participate with Google. These advertisers don't want to participate with Google. Google's business goes away literally tomorrow. So how do they combat this? Right? There's some solutions. Right? Let's take this situation here. Okay? Go to our friend seansblog.com. Let's say seansblog.com It's actually a real website. Sean's blog has 4 ads on it, no content. Google has a searching algorithm that they look at all the different content, what's going on, and they actually can read and piece together different content. Google will go in there and look at the content, and they'll analyze it. There's a company out there, Livestrong. Livestrong went public a couple years ago, like 8 or 9 years ago now. They figured this system out. Well, it wasn't necessarily fraud, but they figured out how to game the system of Google to actually get to the higher search ranks so they could get ads on their site. But it was content, garbage content. And Google was like, wait a second. All right, you're serving real people. Real people go to your site, but they don't really like the site. It's not good content. It's like, how do I swim? Right? Or you're typing to Google like, best ways to buy shoes, or best ways to construct a building, and this would have like garbage content on it. Like, here's the 3 ways written by some guy in who knows where for $2, versus like a real professional website or a website with actual real content. Google wrote an algorithm like, no, we don't want that. We don't want that garbage type of content. It's not necessarily fraud, but Google has systems where it's like, all right, I look at this page, is there any content? All right, no content. How many ads are there? 5 ads. They're just trying to generate ads. Like, that doesn't count. Also, content. Is it good content or not good content? So Google has some systems to do that. There's actually a whole industry worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and companies have been purchased for hundreds of millions of dollars to prevent this kind of stuff to happen. One of them is named the Moat. It's the verification system. Make sure that your ads actually get put on different systems. Like, you guys ever buy a house? Okay. So when you buy a house, or when you buy an apartment, how do you know like you're actually getting the apartment? How do you know that person actually owns the house? Right? Like, so if I say, hey Raphael, I'm gonna say that house right there. Okay, Jake. You say, all right, here, Jake. Here's $2 million. Great, thanks. Here's the keys to the house. You walk in the house, you see there's like a family walking in. No, I bought this house. Really? Yeah, look, have the keys. No, it doesn't work like that. It's a verification system. There's a whole like infrastructure, a whole industry called escrow and titles and entitlements and all this kind of stuff that like a third party verifies. Now, the government sometimes gets involved and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, like the transactions between 2 people, there's some kind of verification system. In the internet, because it's kind of the Wild West, there was no verification system. So early days, it's really easy to make this fraudulent shit. Google doesn't tolerate it though, because their advertisers don't tolerate it. And Google's gonna lose money, they're gonna be like, no, we're not tolerating this. So they develop technological systems to prevent it. So when we think about this kind of stuff, we're like looking at, all right, how do we solve this problem? Right? And why do we solve this problem? And the real answer is we want to make a better internet for people. Right? You've always been, there's one thing where you go to a website, you enjoy the content, or you don't enjoy the content. That's a fair transaction between A and B. What's not fair is if you go to a website, there is actually no content, somebody's paying for it, and somebody else is getting rich, except they don't actually doing anything for it. They're not providing any societal value to this. Okay. So, I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to point out one more anti-fraudulent practice, which is kind of interesting, that you're going to start to come across. Something called ads.txt, or ads.text.
What kind of fraud was that? The one you just talked about?
That was like domain spoof, not spoof, like bot traffic.
It was the first one.
Yeah, bot traffic. We didn't really talk about toolbar. I don't really want to go into that. It's on the topic. So ads.txt. What is that? So the industry was suffering a little bit. Then advertisers come in and be like, I thought I was buying CNBC, Yahoo, Bloomberg, all this kind of shit, right? And I'm coming back and people are like typing in the thing, so it seems like it, but it's not really it. And the websites, by the way, alright, so you know, I'm an advertiser over here, I have 100 grand to spend. The websites like CNBC, it's like, yeah, I should be getting a portion of this. But because like Joe Schmo over here is spoofing this, right, or saying they represent it when they really don't, CNBC's getting screwed too. The name, the brand name is tarnished. Right? I say to you, hey, I can get you on Hollywood Island. You're like, really? Yeah, $50, no problem. And I push you somewhere else. And so then someone else comes and you're like, oh, that guy's scammed me. Then someone else comes in, hey, I can get you on Hollywood Island. Oh, I just got scammed for $50. That doesn't make sense anymore. Like, the brand name decreases. The value of it's not actually real anymore. You call up CNBC, you're like, yeah, I don't want to deal with your site anymore. You guys are getting scammed. The industry came up with a very interesting idea. All right, how do we verify? There's a lot of different parts, as we've talked about, that go into the buying and selling. You got the DSP, you got the exchange, you got the network, you got the broker, all this kind of other stuff. Right? So they wanted to define those people, right? And what companies now have to do is, if you do want to be a reseller or seller of your ad inventory, you want to be a buyer, you have to verify it. You have to put this thing called ads.txt on your website. Now, if you go to websites with content, you're going to start to see ads.txt. Jake, what are you talking about? So, a little website. So you can leave that running. So if you look at this website here, and you can come take a look at this. These are all the different advertising. So I typed in the website name
And slash
/ads.txt. Right? You're going to start to see who's advertising there. And buyers refuse to pay for anything if you don't have this kind of thing here, right? So you got like website.com/ads.txt. If you have any content website, you're going to start to see this ads.txt. And this is a verification that says, yes, this person is allowed to buy on my site. I have verified that I actually have a connection with them. That they're a verified broker or network of my site. Brokers are not the best word, but they're very exchange. But basically, they're allowed to use my website. Versus, the guy just typed it in, I represent it.
Well, that means if you do that, that means like, okay, World Lifestyle is actually advertising bounce X. There's no fraud in there.
Well, not necessarily. There's no fraud, but basically, let's see. All right, so you have your website, right? You have these files called, ads.txt files, right? So we'll say like #OpenX, right? The OpenX is an exchange, and the exchange basically has the DSP plugged in here. It says, I'm buying on OpenX. OpenX is saying, yes, I'm allowed to buy on this website. And it's telling the DSP, I can buy on this website. The technical stuff is not that important. What's really important is to understand that as a website owner, I now have more control and power over my own brand, right? And as a buyer of ad inventory, you always got to go back to like, who's spending the money, right? Who's spending the money? As a buyer, I can feel more secure and safe and say like, all right, I'm on this site. And you'll start to see there's a lot of clients that won't buy. So last year the ad industry went through a big contraction, right? Well, it got smaller because people were like, I don't really need to pay attention to this. And then people started paying attention. Why? Because the buyers. The buyers are the ones with the money. The buyers command it or demand it. this website, this ads.txt. Once you get those ads.txt rolling, you're verified. But if you go around these, if you go to like different brokers and you know, like, oh yeah, I can say that stuff, no problem. It doesn't work. Your revenue will drop. So this is an introduction to ad fraud, right? Like a lot of like general concepts, and you know, it's a very specific concept, ads.txt. You're gonna start to see when you talk about ad fraud, it's gonna come up. How's ads.txt performing? It's been a year since ads.txt. How's the industry doing? There's always ways in the fraud business to get around things. There's always scams. Right? Crime never really goes away. Right? They say the mafia has been they got rid of the mafia. They didn't get rid of the mafia. Just doing different types of scams. Right? There's always ways to make money. However, it gives them more sense of security and safety here. It gives us an idea of like, all right, we know what's going on now. We know who's going to be on our website. Our brand value as the website owner becomes more important now. It becomes relevant again. There was a time where I could buy NFL.com and CNBC for like 12 cents. I'm like, oh, my clients are paying me like $3 for it. And I tell them, hey, I'll be on it. And I look at my system and says, oh, we have this available for 12 cents.
But the ads weren't actually showing on those websites. They were on just the site spoofing thing.
Yeah,
but how? I just don't understand. How can the client not verify that it's actually in the NFL?
So when a client comes to me, they use a third-party verification. This third-party verification used to be very poor. You can manipulate it easily. So a client logs in, oh, it says NFL.com. NFL.com doesn't sell these types of partnerships. I'm sorry, they just don't. They have a very reputable brand. They sell to large advertisers, right? So when people are like, oh, I can be on NFL for 12 cents. Yeah, no problem. Make a lot of money.
I mean, the client pays $3, and whoever's the third.
Yeah, the guy in the middle.
The guy in the middle would just buy 12 cents on Sean's blog, and then he can show on his thing, on his system, that it says NFL, but it's not.
Exactly.
But the ads text is for who?
It's for the buyers and the sellers.
But who? Okay.
So the buyers, the websites put it on their site.
Yeah.
And the buyers say, hey, OpenX, are you allowed to buy on this site? And OpenX says, and the website says, yes, he's allowed to buy on the site. OpenX says, yes, I'm allowed to buy on the site because it's ads.txt. So let's give a practical example so you can see how this circulates, right? Let's make our CNBC example. Right, so we have CNBC. We have their ads.txt. Now I'm a DSP over here, I'm a buyer. And what I do is I buy through exchanges. I buy through RTK. RTK says, hey, I work with CNBC. So what has to happen is RTK goes to DSP and say, hey, we work with CNBC. And the DSP says, that's great. I don't believe you. Says, no, we have our ads.txt on there. So in this file, they have a little piece of code. One of them says OpenX, for example. One of them says index. One of them says RTK. This now passes through to the DSP. Remember, this is all done in real time, milliseconds, 300-400 milliseconds. So not fast. This is one of the files that they read. The DSP looks at it as like, they check the box of ads.txt. Yes. Okay, I'm interested in buying on CNBC. If RTK is not on there, we don't check the box, There's no bids coming through. The DSP will not bid on it. They'll refuse. You know, and what that practically means, I don't know how much we've talked more about bidding. Right? So let's say, Rafael, you come to this website, you see this ad, right? Why do you see this ad? Because RTKIO has a bunch of bids that's submitting to figure out what's the best price to add to show you in 400 milliseconds. But if the DSP is not bidding, you might not see an ad at all. You might see blank. Mainly because there's no CMVC, there's no ads.txt of the RTK. Again, we're getting into the weeds a little bit. The point of it is like when we take a look at fraud, there's a lot of different types of fraud. There's a lot of ways to combat that fraud. Combating it is a whole industry in itself. It's an interesting industry. It also will help you like understand like, all right, what's going on in the industry? Why are people doing certain things? Why do they set up things specifically? This is an operational task. This is massively valuable. Right? When we bring a new site on, one of the things that we do is we add our ads.txt file to the site. So you gotta actually go into the code. You gotta bring a new page, you gotta put your ads.txt, it's gotta fire. If it doesn't fire, buyers won't buy on your website. So this is something where, as a website owner, this is something to think about. You know, there's a lot of other things to think about when you're talking about ad fraud. You gotta manage the quality. If you look, it's similar web. I don't know, do you have a similar web up? Yeah. So let's see. So let's scroll down just a second. I think they have this. No. Yeah, they don't have it. So one of the things you can actually look at in certain situations, you see bot traffic. And what is bot traffic? It's usually coming from a data center. Now, technically, this is, you know, this is where I'm talking about like the bots, right? So you have some guy sitting in Ukraine. What that technically means is like you have a bunch of servers spitting out ads, saying, "Hey, here's an ad, here's an ad, here's an ad." Nobody's actually seeing that. Right? So these are things to think about when you're talking about when we're looking at fraud, when we're doing marketing and stuff like that, right? We obviously don't want to do fraud. That's just. But we want to start to think like, all right, how do we combat fraud? What are different tools and systems we need to do? And when we get a new lead in, you know, somebody says, hey, I got this website, it's 20 million impressions. You look at the website and you're like, yeah, but there's no content on it. Or it's fake content. It's like, you know, not fake news, but more fake content.
Yeah.
Just ads all over the place. You know, okay, well, that's not helpful. You know? We gotta be, you know, most of the sites you're gonna go to is like, oh, all right. You know, besides, if I have 20 million impressions, you go to the website, it's like, there's nothing on there. You gotta be like, And we're talking about millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in this fraud thing. And one of the big companies that got bought for anti-fraud was a company called Moat, M-O-A-T. They did like ad verification, you know. The other thing we didn't really talk about is fraud on the advertiser side, right? So on the website.
So all of these that you talked about are all, they're not, okay, so they're
They're like
on the actual publisher side.
Yeah.
Or maybe the DSP,
Yes.
the middleman,
Yes.
or the network, but
The
not
networks.
the ad yet.
Not the ad. Right?
Okay.
But if I'm an advertiser, I can do some shady shit. Think about this. Right. You ever seen a 300 by 600 ad? It's like a big ad on the side.
Yeah.
What if you put 2 ads in there? So that's a questionable. I don't know. You can fit 2 300 by 250 ads in there. That's one thing. There's something called a refresh. So if you've ever seen, I think on Yahoo they have it, where it refreshes the ad every like 20, 30 seconds or something. Right? This is again equivalent. You're on Hollywood Highland has those digital signs and it's refreshing it, you know, time after time. So if I'm an advertiser, I got to make sure I know that it refreshes, right? Because if I'm spending $10,000, let's say on the hardcore billboards, this is a billboard. Let's say I spent $10,000 on a Olympic and Bundy right here. Right, I spent $10,000 on that. Oh, good, that's great. But it's there 24/7. Every time somebody drives by, you know, every time somebody drives by, boom, people are gonna see it. Still going?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see me?
Mm-hmm. Just make sure.
You see this billboard, it's fine. But what happens if, like, I only see it 24 hours a day, 1 day a week? Because it's flipping to another thing, right? Or maybe it's only on 6 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, why am I paying $10,000 for it? I'm only getting a fraction of what I actually paid for. You know? Or you're stuffing 3 ads in. Right? There's all these different tips and tricks and all this kind of stuff. You know, like, I'm not saying don't be creative. You know, there's different types of sponsorships and stuff like that. Like, we have the Super Bowl coming up. I want you guys to, when you watch the Super Bowl, if you're watching it, I want you to start to think about who's promoting what where. You didn't watch TV, you're like, whoa, you know, you have your ad, your general ads that are 30 seconds, blah, blah, blah. But there's like people at the bottom that like sponsored by, or you're watching the game and you see like, oh, like over the Goodyear blimp or something like that. Those are all advertisements, right? Interesting ways to get more promotion. A lot of times people pay for them, a lot of times they don't pay for them. So, you guys have any questions or thoughts or ideas? Or I know it's like a lot of info about ad fraud, but like I just want to give you the foundation of this kind of thing.
I don't understand how that was the fraud from the advertisers, where you just said that was more fraud from the website, no?
Websites,
Refreshes.
yeah, websites for yes, you're right. If you're an advertiser, there's like it's harder to do types of fraud.
Right.
More than networks can do it.
Right.
If you're the advertiser, you don't care.
Well, yeah,
You want to get the cheapest price as possible. That's the truth.
of course, but that's not fraud. Like,
That's not fraud,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But if you're the advertiser, yeah, you want to generate as much free impressions as
Of
possible.
course, yeah.
Any questions?
No, that's it. Yeah, I had a question about the advertising funds too, but
What's the question?
I just didn't get it.
Okay. Yeah, the advertising fraud is a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
Another way to do advertising fraud is you can say you're one brand and you put in another. Right.
Okay.
Or you do something called a mobile redirect. You guys ever seen one of those? It's a redirect is like you're on your website, you're on your mobile phone. All of a sudden, you get redirected to Uber. Like, well, what? You know, you're scrolling. What happened here? You're like, all right, you go back. And you're scrolling. Oh, I got another ad for like another app. What happened here? That's a mobile redirect. People get really upset about that. That's the website. That's an advertiser who's trying to get more impressions. Like, oh, they're just going to install my app.
And that's
Mobile
fraud.
redirects.
And that's fraud.
It's not an approved way to generate revenue. Some people do it.
Like kind of unethical, but not
Yes.
really wrong.
It depends
Like,
who.
okay,
Yeah, it's unethical.
Okay.
It's not illegal.
It's not illegal. I mean, people don't want to. I mean, like, it's kind of like a pop under. Obviously, it takes away from the experience of the user. You're reading an article, all of a sudden, and then it's like very difficult to exit out.
Yeah.
That's like, all right, well, come on, what are you doing there?
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, coming to you from Facebook Live. I think we're gonna be on YouTube next, but we love Facebook too.